Hey, this is the Shoveler. On today's episode, we're talking about our movie experiences growing up. As Indians who also happen to be Christian, our parents tended to be a little strict about the movies we watched, which actually made for some interesting times. Before we get started, though, we have a favor to ask. If you enjoy today's show, do us a favor and spread the word. Share this podcast with at least one other person, and of course, leave us some feedback so we know if we suck. Without further ado, this is the Mystery Men Podcast. So, welcome to today's show. Today we're talking about a non-political topic. I wanted to ask you guys about movies and your life experience with movies. Many people in the Indian community have probably grown up with, more strict parents when it comes to allowing us to watch movies at young ages. And so, some of our experiences may vary, but I know my parents were pretty strict with that. So I just wanted to go around the quote unquote room and ask you guys, what was maybe your first experience watching a movie, whether it be in a movie theater or at home. But like most likely, if your parents were like mine, they didn't let me go see many movies in the movie theater for whatever reason. Okay.
It's because they don't love you.
I think that was part of it. But, my mom was a little bit more lenient than my dad, I would say for sure, because my first movie that I can remember seeing in a theater was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Because they re-released it or something when I was a little kid in the theaters. And so my mom took my brother and I to go see it. And I think I was like 4 or 5, but like the first real new release movie that I actually saw was the original Ninja Turtles movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was the first one that.
Oh, yeah.
And I know for a fact that it most likely occurred whenever my dad wasn't at home, and my mom probably just took us out during the day and let us go see it during one summer or something like that. There's no way he would have let us seen that movie. And I think the worst thing about, other than just some of the violence, I guess, or fighting, I think the worst thing about it may have been like the utterance of the word damn, maybe once or twice in the movie. But that was the worst thing I think was about that movie, I guess. But what were some of your guys' first movies? I just want to kind of hear at least the first movie that you saw in a theater.
Well, first of all, this totally explains why you're such a horrible person. I realize it now.
Yeah.
Well,
that first damn has led to such a downfall.
I think Shoveler, I believe it was, we watched that movie together, but I believe we had to wait until it was rented, because what I remember is we watched it and then our dad watched it with my mom after, and he was really angry because of that scene. And he's just like, oh, you should have let them watch this. And I was like, when you look back at it now, rubber people in rubber costumes, not even fighting with their weapons, it's not as bad as you think. But yeah, as you said, we had a more of a strict what do you call it? A strict limitation on what movies are considered okay to watch.
Right. So, was that your first movie?
I believe it was. It was. We were really, or at least I was really big into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon that came out in the early '90s, and so to see them live was such a huge thing. It doesn't matter what they were doing; it was just to see them live. And so, and I thought it was actually pretty decent out of all the 3 movies that came out in that genre. That was probably the best one, but it was just cool to see what maybe the turtles would look like if they were real. Again, as I look back at now, I'm like, wow, that was completely totally off.
So the language was the problem, not Vanilla Ice dancing around and thrusting.
Vanilla Ice was in Turtles 2.
He was in the second one.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Not the first one, yeah.
The first one was pretty basic.
Yeah. That was a good movie. I thought it was a good movie for its time.
That was like significant. The first efforts around CGI that we started to feel in the movies. It was like basically like they took the Chuck E. Cheese animatrons and brought them into an actual movie and made it look real.
I think like Jim Henson's group probably helped out with that, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
It was a little advanced for its time, I would say, because they had the guys dressed up, but then the actual face mask they would computer generate or place that face mask onto the bodies. But they would use animatronics and puppeteering to move the mouths and everything.
But that was too great for our poor young eyes to see. According to our dad at that time, anyway. Now he's probably seen things that I'm like I'll catch our dad watching different shows or movies. And I'm like, oh man, like I would have never thought he would have even seen.
You corrupted him with Ninja Turtles.
I know. Then it went straight to Breaking Bad. Was like I remember the last time like I saw him watching a show like and it was like Breaking Bad. And I was like, what? He's watching this, and he was like actually into it. Like I thought at least whatever episode he was watching. I don't think he watched the whole series or anything, but I think he caught it on TV once, and he was just like drawn into it. Well, I thought that was pretty funny. So, Invisible Boy, what was your first theater experience?
The first theater movie I remember seeing wasn't actually that bad. It was Space Jam. When Space Jam first came out, I remember like the theater. I remember the theater was just like jam packed for the first 10 minutes. I was sitting at the very first row, just looking up at the theater, and then my mom found like one seat in the middle of the theater that she like pulled me and was like, let me sit there. And I think Blue Raja, my dad and my mom all sat at that front row or that front or second row.
Of course. Wow.
For the movie.
The
but
chosen one
back in the middle.
The chosen one got the prime seat.
Probably getting AC blown directly onto your seat.
Yeah, just seeing Sean Bradley get his power stolen, but
he really had power anyway before that was stolen.
So very little power was taken from Sean Bradley, and that Monstar didn't do that well on the team.
I remember the first movie. I can distinctly remember of my parents like fast forwarding it and kind of throwing a fit. Was do you guys remember the Adam Sandler movie Big Daddy? So there's this scene where like the couple that the kid goes to is this gay couple, right? And there's a scene where they just like full on like make out at one point. Like the guy comes in. And I remember when that happened. Blue Raja, like I could see his face. He was like, "Oh," you can see it. Then my mom just fast forward it real quick, and they like kind of threw a fit.
Yeah, the best part is whenever they try to fast forward. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My mom asking Blue Raja if he's okay. I was like,
it wasn't that traumatic, huh?
I didn't know what was going on. Like I think I was like 8 or 9 maybe or something like that. Yeah. So you don't really, I mean, like they never talked about stuff like that, when we were growing up. So I think that was like the first time, you see something, at least in our house, at least that was like the first time.
Did you have any other like awkward experiences with your parents like that?
Oh,
or was
yeah.
It just
so my parents were, like, they actually weren't, like that. They weren't that big on like language and violence. It was just more of like the sexual scenes or like the things they like. I remember my dad would always get a pillow and put it over my face whenever he thought something was about to happen.
Did you hear what was going on?
Oh yeah, you could hear it. But you also heard the rewind button going. Because it usually happened that dad had the remote and then mom was like sitting next to me. So whenever it was about to come, mom would put the pillow over my face, and then dad forward the movie.
Yeah, the worst part is that they never get it right, so then they're like fast forward too much, and then they rewind
then they
it
try to rewind it,
and then they rewind it back. It's like back in the smack in the middle of the scene, and then they forward it again, and then rewind it, and you're just like, just play it. We got it 4 times now.
And then like after a while it gets to the age where it's more awkward for you, like rather than
there is a point.
than the parents. Like once you become like a teenager, you're just like, you can feel your hairs kind of on the neck standing out whenever it's at. You're like, please fast forward it, please fast forward it.
No, but then at that moment they're just still watching it, like, with their mouth open, and you're just like,
you see, there was like an example of that. Like I think I was watching some movie with my mom at one point, and some sex scene came on, and I'm like, I'm getting that feeling. I'm at that age where I'm like, oh gosh, this is so uncomfortable. Like, and so I'm like trying to fast forward it, and then I go too far, and I'm trying to get back. And mom's like, and it gets back to that scene, and my mom's like, just let it go. That's fine. Whatever.
just let it go. It's the best part. It's the best part.
It was. I remember my mom wouldn't be that really care about those scenes, but it would just be so awkward and weird.
Yeah,
to watch it.
My dad would just like have a conniption. It felt like he was like rocking back and forth in this chair whenever those types of scenes.
I remember watching this.
Or close your eyes, Dad. Come on.
I remember this movie we all watched together called Nothing to Lose.
Oh my God, that's not what I was gonna say.
I don't remember.
I'll be quiet.
I don't remember what the movie was about. What was the movie about?
So Martin Lawrence is I don't know if he's like just a black guy that got arrested or something, but he's at his wit's end, and he's trying to rob Tim. God, was it Tim Robbins?
Tim Robbins.
Yeah, he's robbing carjacking Tim Robbins, but he's like really smart. But he has to go to a life of crime because the black man is. Mm-hmm. That's all the choice he has. So he goes to a life of crime and tries to carjack him. And Tim Robbins' character is having a really bad day, and he apparently just floors it and kidnaps basically Martin Lawrence's character. And then Martin Lawrence's character and him proceed to like decide to screw over Tim Robbins' boss, who is the cause of all these problems. And that's the premise of the movie. But majority of the first scene, whenever Tim Robbins' character kidnaps Martin Lawrence, is just beep, 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 beep. He's just like, and I remember that's the first time I had my, was it fiance I get this time? Yeah, I guess my fiance was in the room.
Yeah.
And we were all together, and it was just like, my dad was like, finally just got up and left. We're just like, oh, should we stop watching it? What do we do?
Well, it's even worse. There was a scene at the beginning of that movie where there's like sexual scene.
Oh gosh, that's not a way to start any movie with
Well, Tim Robbins' character basically walks in on what he believes to be his wife having an affair. And it's pretty visible. I mean, like, it's there's not much left to the imagination as to the event. So then that starts it off, and then it's like beep 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 beep. So it's like a wonderful combination of pieces that did not work well.
I see. So, what about you, Blue Roger? What was like your first movie you saw in the theater? I didn't get to ask you that.
I don't have anyone I can remember where it was like overly bad in the theaters to where like I was really cringing with my parents, but it's kind of more so the opposite in one instance that I can just kind of remember, and it was where like we watched we made our mom take us to go see like Pokemon the first movie with Mewtwo, and I don't know, it's just so bad. Like it's just like plot wise, I don't know. It was just such a bad movie where I just felt bad that mom had to take us to see it. That was the one, and then like the only other one was like back when we used to believe the Oscars were worth something. We got this movie Capote because it won a bunch of awards, and it was just so boring. But like, I couldn't. Like, I had to believe that there was like a light at the end of the tunnel, like that this movie was going to just turn around and be like a great cinematic masterpiece. So like Invisiboy, my mom and dad all fell asleep, and they were just like passed out on the couch together, and I was like on the floor watching it, and I stayed through the whole movie, and it never got better. And so
you stuck it through.
That's the only thing I could. Yeah, but other than that, I can't really remember any like. I mean, yeah, there was like some. I think. Oh yeah, and once watching The Shining, with them, there was a
how old are you? How old are you?
4.
Having you watch The Shining?
4.
I want to say, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12. I don't know, somewhere around there. But,
The prime age for scaring.
Yeah, but there's a scene where there's like a woman's just like fully nude, like after there's 2 creepy little girls are standing in the hallway. Then there's like a fully nude woman, and then like the way we always sat when we did family movies was like Invisible. My mom and dad would always like sit on the couch together
as
and
a family.
I was just like, yes, family. I was banished to the floor.
They would open up your cage to allow you to see the movie from your cage.
I was banished to the floor next to their feet. No,
yeah, he had a special pillow we would give him.
Yeah, I was just going to lay on the floor. It's just my dad was kind of like fumbling with the remote when that like nude woman was on, so he kind of like
rewinding it so he could see it again.
I don't know what's going on.
He'd fast forward a little too much. Then he'd rewind it back to the scene. Then he'd like pause it. Then he'd try to fast forward, but not as fast.
You would always hear Dad fumbling with the report, and he'd be like, "Oh, geez."
Oh no, a nude woman on the screen, freeze framed exactly at this point.
Oh, jeez, what's wrong with this DVD? Like,
yeah, DVD. Okay, so what was like? There was definitely a lot of ground rules as far as movies went. Like I remember when I turned 13, I had a birthday party, and so I was like, all right, like my parents were going to take me and my friends to the movie theater, and I was going to be able to see like my first PG-13 movie. And so my dad takes us to the theater, and then he buys us tickets for Toy Story, the original.
Park is over.
I was going to see Land Before Time.
And I'm like, I don't recall if Toy Story was rated G or rated PG, but it might as well have been rated G at that point. Like, it was a total letdown for my 13th birthday, and we.
What did you think you were going to see? A movie with boobs in it? You think your dad was going to like put
maybe
you
something with more violent? I don't know. I figured there at least
just go to Blue Roger's house. You can see boobs.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, I should have went over to Blue Roger's.
Blue Roger got to see a lot of good movies like Gladiator and all these at a young age.
Mm-hmm. So, like we definitely, I know in my family, we definitely would not get to see anything rated R or anything. But I remember there was this one time we took like a family trip to and we were visiting another family in Oklahoma, and they had like 2 sons, and they were like, "Hey, you guys want to watch a movie?" And we're, my brothers and I were like, "Oh yeah, sure, let's definitely see a movie." And they're like, "Yeah, let's watch Predator 2." and like I think our older brother was like, "Is that like rated R or something?" And like, "Oh yeah, it's rated R. Are you sure you guys can see it?" And I just remember being a kid, and I don't know what I was like, just trying to show all this confidence at that point, but I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't bother, like bad words don't bother me or anything like that. Yeah, and then we proceed to watch Predator 2, and it's just like blood, gore, and just tons of
Shovel sitting there with a white face. He's like,
yeah, there was even like
that was a disturbing movie. I don't even remember how old I was.
Yeah, man. Some of the scenes in there, like there was a scene where literally the drug dealer is having sex with his girlfriend, and then the predator kills him and spines him. Basically, takes his whole spine out of his body.
Well, no, it's worse than
yeah.
It was worse than that. They had him hanging upside down, and they like got
like de-skinned
or something. Yeah, that's what it was. That was your first. Yeah, I can handle it.
Yeah, I can handle it.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was like my first rated R movie at like age 9 or 10 years old.
I forgot.
And that was that. But later on, I probably watched it when I got older and stuff, and I was more desensitized at that point. But
after your scar,
all right movie. But like, what was like? I mean, it sounds like Blue Raja and Invisible Boy saw like rated R movies at age 5. So I don't even know, like
we were mature for our age.
So, like, explain, what was your first like rated R movie, like
first
the
one,
most mature movie that you saw?
I can't remember if I saw something outside of the ones mentioned, like the Predator, but I would say the one that I got to see in the theaters was Scream 2. Because I had an older brother and his friend who had met the age limit of 17. So I got a ticket. I'm a teenage boy at that time. I was expecting to see something like, oh, cool, I'm gonna see something nice. And nothing. I was like, of course they had the typical, go to FUCK curse words, but that's pretty much it. And maybe some blood and gore, but that was like the first one that I can remember where I was like, oh man, this is like, I feel like I'm on the edge now. Not knowing that, remembering that my cousins or other people who got to see movies at 2 years old watching the rated R movie, but that was probably and I felt it was exciting because going on a movie on our own and not having our mom ask if there's sex scenes in it. I remember one time she bought tickets for me and my brother, and then she asked, "Is there any sex scenes?" And she was asking the teller first to give us the ticket. This is back in the day when you wouldn't even buy tickets on the kiosk. This is like you wait at the ticket
you have to go to the booth. Yeah,
and so we're waiting in line. People are behind us, and
any bad words in this?
It was Dragonheart too, which was like with Sean Connery, which was a horrible movie in itself. We wasted our money, but then our mom has to ask.
I never think she asked for Dragonheart if there was any sex scenes in Dragonheart. Oh man, I think I remember that. That was embarrassing. So, Mr. Fierce, when did you actually see your first rated R movie?
Oh man, dude, I'm so old now. I can't remember. I think the thing is, like, I don't know if you guys watched last or whoever listened to last episode about our friends. Keith was the source of more problems, including the rated R movies.
He's back.
Keith is back.
It's your boy,
Keith. Yeah. So his parents had HBO.
Oh man!
So when I would be over there, we'd see, they'd be watching movies and stuff like that. So I think my first rated R, I don't even know if it was rated R. It's probably PG-13. It was Walk Like a Man. It was like an older movie with like Brendan Fraser in it. So basically, he was like raised by wolves, and then he comes into suburban society and is adjusting. And so then, and then Lucas was another movie. I'm telling you, these are old movies.
Yeah.
Lucas is a movie with is it Corey Haim or was it the other guy? Remember the two Corys?
I
think it was Corey Haim or Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman. So Corey, no, the kid from Goonies. Do you guys remember that? I don't know which Corey it is.
One of the
Feldman? Corey Feldman?
I think it's Corey Feldman. Okay, anyway, so Corey, it's just a coming of age story, but there's like, sex and like he's in a football team and he just gets beat up and all the time. He's a bully. He's bullied and whatever. Yeah, I think that's when I really started to get exposed to that. And then my first movie with my parents though was E.T. So I saw E.T. in the theaters.
Oh, really? In the theater?
So, but it had curse words.
Oh, that's true. That does.
Curse words in there. Yeah, so there wasn't anything too bad. But like the kids, like radical, and then they would say like, yeah, they would call each other names, right? And so Elliot said a few words here and there.
Wow.
So but I don't remember my first rated R movie. Man, it's been so long ago.
I remember a lot more, like we watched a lot of movies at home. Like I remember back then, a lot of grocery stores, and ours was Albertsons at the time. They would have their own little movie rental section in each of these stores. And so all the VHSs were there and you basically picked out one. So we would do that on occasion, pick out a movie. And a lot of the movies I watched were heavily influenced by my older brother because, he would know about a lot of these movies. And so, one of the, I think a couple of us in this podcast were big fans of. What was that?
Closer to Keith. Keith would say.
So, like, I think we, there was a couple of cult classics that we would watch because of that. So that's where I got exposed to movies like Star Wars and one of our favorites, Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. Which I don't know how many times we rented that. They probably had to destroy the tape after we rented it like the last time because it was just like watched that many times. But but like we would just die laughing at all the stupid scenes in that movie, and that was like one that I remember from my childhood just watching over and over again.
Can I just say that the old school movie rental places was such a good thing for people to have learn how to patience. Because you get there, you run there after shopping, you run there to go pick the movie. You're like, oh man, it's checked out again.
Can I be on the waiting list?
You have to wait another week and come back. Oh man.
And that was like, I didn't even know, like, when did Blockbuster come out? Because I mean, that probably was
the same
late
time.
80s, I think, when it came out.
I don't recall a Blockbuster like back then. I don't recall a Blockbuster being close.
Yeah,
so it was like, definitely the
Hollywood
but then, like
Video.
when we moved Hollywood Video, that came out after Blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like there would be like a couple of cult classics like that. Were there any that you guys recall as a child that was, childhood movie that you saw, as far as like on TV or renting?
Monster Squad.
Monster Squad. I actually rented that like a year or two ago, and I never got to finish. I just started it, but it was like really late in the evening. I was getting tired. I was like, I'll watch this later, but I never finished it. But it's still out there on Amazon Prime, I think.
I don't think it was even that popular, but myself and Mr. Pierce and Shoveler were all the only ones propping up that movie to because we rented it so many times.
I don't even know how we became aware of that movie, but like it was about a kid who I think his dad was a cop. And he had this little team of kids. Like there was always like a little team of kids that had like a little clubhouse that had traps and everything for other people to not be able to break in. And then they had like their own little gang, and they basically like loved monsters and talking about monsters and stuff like that. And then basically all these monsters come to act like real life and stuff and start attacking their town. And so it's about him and their monster squad that, has to fight back. But like I remember a lot of movies like that, and you could probably say the same for like. Do you guys remember Ernest? I mean, like that was another series of movies. Like, let's see, there was Ernest Goes to Jail.
Ernest Goes to Camp.
Ernest Goes to Camp.
That was the first one, right?
Yeah.
See, so that's on Roku for some reason right now.
What?
Yeah. Ernest. I think it's Ernest Goes to Camp.
Ernest Saves Christmas.
So I was trying to show my kids that, and they were just staring at it like, what is happening? They did kind of laugh at a couple of the scenes, and I stopped watching it because we had to go somewhere. But it's never the same. Like I tried to play a couple of those movies from back in the day, like Flight of the Navigator. Y'all remember that one? Yeah, I played that one for the kids, and they're just like, "This is so boring." And I was like, "This is boring." You're right. I can't believe I'm so excited by this.
Yeah, because like back then, you have to think about like what we were exposed to as far as special effects and things like that. Like that was all new to us. I mean, because all of that just seemed so cool and out there, like a spaceship coming out of nowhere and flying at crazy speeds and. It was basically a talking spaceship, right?
Yeah, and to connect to our love of Pee Wee Herman, that was actually Paul Rubin who was the voice of the ship.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow, that's true.
Yeah, but like, what about you guys, Invisible Boy, Blue Raja? Like, what were some of those cult classic type movies that you guys would remember or still like to watch today if you had the chance?
Well, like thinking about like the movies we rented a lot, like that we rented more than once. Like I remember we rented the third Star Wars a lot.
Like episode 3?
Yeah, episode 3 a lot. And then the Home Alone movies, we rented those.
Did you go in the Home Alone series? Hey, Invisible Boy, what was your last favorite Home Alone?
It was the one with I can't remember the number, but the one it happened during Christmas time where the lady with the little pigeon. You remember?
Oh, that was Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2.
Right?
Yeah.
Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2. Yeah, I think that was the one I remember watching the most. And then there was a lot of the animated ones I remember, like as a kid, like Land Before Times, American Tail, like things like
the Disney movies.
Yeah.
Land Before Time, they had like 8 movies of those. I mean,
and they got progressively worse.
Yeah, they got progressively worse. I remember.
Five Goes West jumped the shark really easily.
Yeah, that's good.
I was trying to find Five Goes West and try to see like, hey, maybe I could get my son to watch something I watched when I was younger, but they didn't show much interest in the. He was like, "What's it about?" And I was like, "Well, it's about this mouse who actually." What was the first movie? It was just called American Tail, right?
Yeah,
American Tail.
That's how I was trying to describe to him. And
there's no civics being taught in school. And like a real immigrant and back in that day. Like, where's the wall, Daddy? Why is the mouse not going over a wall?
Why is the mouse child in a cage?
Well, see, folks, this mouse came legally to the United States and checked in.
He has all his papers?
Yes, he actually went through the port.
Fascist.
I was thinking about the actual plot, about this when I was trying to see if I could get him to watch it, and I was like, well, there is like, some good things in there, like when you're thinking about like how they had to come, they came to America and then they realized it wasn't as easy as their song made it seem at the beginning. Remember the song?
There were cats in America.
There were cats in America, and the streets weren't filled with cheese. And they actually had to work hard and everything. So I was like, yeah, this would be a good lesson to teach my son. And
unless the movies are like 3 minutes and 38 seconds, no kid is gonna pay attention to them now.
That's another thing. My son hates movies. Like I can't get him to watch movies because he's like, I'd just rather watch a show. Like he doesn't want to watch like a whole big movie anymore.
It has to be wrapped up in 20 minutes, otherwise I'm pretty much worried about this next generation. We had to sit through an hour and 20 minutes of watching the stuff to finally figure out the ending. These kids are like in 98 seconds. They're like, oh, that was good. All right, next one.
I guess another great movie, which I haven't seen in a while, and I looking at the Rotten Tomato score and IMDb score, probably didn't age well. But Operation Jumbo Drop.
That was a classic. I don't know what you're talking about.
What's the Rotten Tomato score?
Huh?
What's the Rotten Tomato score?
I don't know. I don't know. You might not. This might not get to hear the Invisiboy, but it's 31%.
No,
man. You can't trust Rotten.
Yeah, you can't. That's the critics, man. They're trying to bring that
a movie with Donald Glover
and Ray
Liotta, an elephant. Is not going to be hitting the high marks. I can't believe that.
Could you imagine the script writing for that? He's like, and the climax is going to be when they have to parachute an elephant down into the jungle.
Yeah, and the parachute wasn't operating, so they had to fall next to the elephant and try to fix it. And, it had everything.
They risked their lives for that.
For the
elephant. That movie made a net profit of $670,000.
No way!
It cost $24 million to make, and they got
that was Invisiboy and Blue Raja renting it.
No, we own that movie.
600,000. Yeah, we own that movie.
The fact that you could quote the fact that you could quote every line from that movie was even worse.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. At one point,
not number 1, you number 10.
Yeah, you are number 10. That was
now, another thing that comes to mind is our parents. Like sometimes they would watch the weirdest movies. Like my mom has the weirdest taste in movies. Like I think Spleen came in and on her watching a movie that we actually started to love to watch, which was called Skakma. Does anybody recall that?
So I remember our mom would. There's an old TV station. It was Channel 39, and they would play. Usually most good channels would have a filler movie. But Channel 39 was all filler movies all the time. It was the worst movies that you would probably never have seen the light of day if it wasn't for 39. So our mom would end up watching that. And so Skakma was on there. And so I just remember coming into a scene where the Skakma, basically the premise is this baboon is operated on in a lab by the scientist who gives him even more aggressive tendencies, because baboons apparently are aggressive at it, but then his operation, for some reason, he wanted to make him even more aggressive. But then Skakma, the monkey, gets let out. And so half the movie is him running towards doors and then hitting his head against it and just pretty much attacking that door because someone may be behind it. And so he's trying to get in. And the movie production was so bad they couldn't even reshoot scenes. So there's scenes where, Skakma is an ape. They're using a live animal. So there'll be a scene where the Skakma shows up and he's peeing freely on camera, just coming up towards someone, and he's just peeing. And they couldn't reshoot this scene apparently. Or he's so angry as he's hitting the door, a poop would fly out of his butt. Literally a scene where he's hitting the door and then the poop flies out because of his rage. And I asked Mom, what are you watching? But I ended up getting my brother to watch it too. I was just we were just cracking up because again, every half the scenes were him. The monkey.
Now, wasn't the other half of the story was the monkey was released and it was running around a building or something, but there at the same time there was a bunch of nerdy grad school students that were playing some kind of weird Dungeons and Dragons type game. Or am I getting that wrong?
That's how they got them in the building that night. As they're we're gonna play an awesome Dungeons and Dragons game, and meanwhile, a crazy monkey has been released somehow in the thing.
And riding the elevator.
It's like a live action role play. They were literally going from floor to floor. And meanwhile, Skakma's roaming, killing them off one by one.
For some reason, they decided to lock themselves in, and no one can get out because the scientist person, who was the head game master, had the keys.
Yeah, the keys to the whole building or something.
Apparently. because they couldn't get out while this baboon would attack them.
Baboon.
And if you watch the trailer, like
baboon.
Yeah, there's like no name actors.
I'm gonna include the trailer to Skakma in the show notes. We'll definitely put that in there. But yeah, there was a couple. And then my mom would also like watch a lot of movies. Like she's a big fan of what are those movies called? Tyler Perry movies.
Medea. Yeah.
The Medea series.
I don't know what it is about Medea and our uncles and aunts, but like they really love Medea, and they will go to every like theater release of a Medea movie that comes out.
Yeah,
She
I
speaks
know.
truth, man. She speaks truth.
I remember I was watching. Well, like some of my black friends would want to watch, like, show me the Medea movies, so that we're just like watching it once with them, and they're just like they're just slapping their knees, holding their just gripping their stomachs, just laughing, and I was just like, man, Brian, you don't have a good sense of humor. I'm like, oh, do I not? Oh, yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't get the Medea movies, but there's, I don't know, maybe your mom must have
for it.
Yeah, there's a crowd for it.
There's a fan base too.
Yeah.
Let me ask, what was the first movie you guys had to explain to your parents?
There's too many of those.
Yeah.
Like anytime I go to a theater,
the question is like, what movie did they watch that they understood? And like completely.
I remember trying to explain The Matrix to my parents.
Oh my God!
Good luck.
There's no way, man.
Good luck.
And I remember like they kept pausing it, and I would explain it to them, and they kept that, like, every time I would explain it, they would be like, "Oh, yeah," and I was like, "You don't understand it." At the end, I was like, "Did you like it?" They're like, "Yeah."
Like, can you tell us what the ending meant again? Oh man!
Have they ever watched Inception?
I watched Inception with them. That was horrible.
Oh,
That's gonna blow your minds, man. There's no way. You need like at least 3 days to explain that. Each layer requires it.
What's that? I don't know. I can't remember whether if it's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or that guy with the meme where he's like has like a bunch of like charts behind him and he's like trying to explain.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. That's like us trying to like explain like just a simple movie to our parents.
What were you gonna say, Explain?
I was going to say that I remember my mom would also, not only she watched those weird movies, but she would get these off-brand movies. So it's like when the time that Babe came out, which was a very popular movie. So she may have mistaken it for Babe, but she rented the movie called Gordy. Which was the worst low budget production, which came out maybe around that time. Trying to take advantage of Babe taking this
Babe phenomenon.
Yeah. But they didn't even use CGI or puppeteering them out. They just like gave the poor pig some weird stuff you put in the mouth, and so some type of thing that would make him kept trying to like spit, get it out of his mouth. So the pig would be moving his mouth trying to get all this white stuff out, and then they would have this like bad voiceover.
Oh my God!
It was like so horrible. I'm like, why are you watching this? And she would watch it by herself because we wouldn't want to watch it. But
why does this pig sound like Steven Seagal?
Yeah.
It was probably one of Steven Seagal's last legitimate roles.
Hey, I'm Gordy.
They both have similarities.
But that actually brings me to another point. Like I think as a group, we all enjoyed watching a lot of Steven Seagal movies, kind of in our college years. And a lot of it is just because we like watching things that are so bad that they're funny. But like, I think as Steven Seagal's, got himself more entrenched in the Russian mafia, like his movies just progressively got worse and worse, and he got fatter and fatter. And then at this point, I think other people are doing most of the movie for him, and he just shows up for a scene or two.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I mean, those were some classics right there, I think.
Sure, on the records, each movie grosses like 200 million.
You think so?
I think they're just money laundering through these movies.
Well, I'm sure they don't gross that much, but they basically take a lot of money to spend, like, to actually
to make them. Yeah, that's probably true.
And he always had like a kidnapped, like probably like some sex slave that he would force into the movie. That would be his love interest.
That was another thing. He was like in his scenes with his love interest in most of these movies, he basically just falls on top of them while they're like undressing themselves, and then he's fully clothed with like a leather jacket on, like a leather trench coat, and he just falls over on top of them as they like.
You guys don't recognize the amazingness of Steven Seagal. You can't expect him to like take off his clothes. He just needs to pull it out through a small hole. I mean, like. He's such a king, man. He's a king. You can't be like expecting the king to like robe.
I could have sworn one of the girls was drugged, because even in her acting scenes, like she's like saying, "Oh, I'm so happy," but she had no facial expression whatsoever. So I was like, she looks drugged.
I remember that.
If you want your freedom, you got to finish the scene.
Are you proposing to me? And he's like, yes, I guess you could say that. And then the next scene is her in their room, and then she just drops her robe, and he like lands on top of her. That's pretty much
there you go.
All right. Well, I think we've gleaned enough about what movies we watched and our initial experiences with movies, but I think we'll probably have more to come. I think I want to do another show about TV shows, because I don't know about you guys, but I watched a lot of TV when I was growing up. So we'll do our next one on that. So I think we'll end it here, but we want to hear from the listeners. What were your first movies? Ever have an awkward movie experience with your parents? Leave it down in the comments below. And as always, please like and subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you use. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, and more. Please also subscribe to our Twitter feed. We're at MysteryMen16, and our Facebook page is Mystery Men Podcast. Do us one last favor. Share this episode with at least one friend this week. We would really appreciate it. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.